My name is Chris Meckley from ACI Aquaculture. We want to start this one off, this episode off this time. We want to talk about corals. In particular, we want to talk about frags. There are multiple ways you can go about buying frags. You can buy lineage frags, or you can buy, people call them chop shop frags. Chop shop frags are a little bit different than what we do. We don't freshly cut a coral, put it into a bag, ship it to our retail stores. We like to make sure that all of our frags are healed and growing and healthy to make sure that this coral is not just some fresh cut white edges. Anybody can do that. We have a 24-foot by 4-foot system dedicated strictly for healing the corals once they've been fragged, and we're going to take you and show you that right now. Okay, and here we are back at the back part of my facility where we heal up all of our frags and get them growing. And also, this is where we truly aquaculture some of our frags. One of the things that I would recommend that any hobbyist look for when they're buying a frag, look at the edge of the coral when it is in an aquarium. Make sure that it is not just a fresh cut with tissue that is not healed and puffy and growing over the edge. You can tell when a coral has been freshly cut. If a coral has been freshly cut and just mounted to a disc, you're going to see an opaque color in the glue, and you'll see the glue, and there will not be any encrusting on to the glue or over the plug. The other thing is a freshly cut frag might not have the best polyp extension because the coral itself is stressed out. So look for polyp extension when you're buying a frag. Sometimes corals have polyp extension and they are freshly cut as well. So if it has polyp extension, look at the glue on the base where it is mounted to the plug. That would be an indicator of how fresh it actually is. When it comes to Monteporas, basically the same thing. One of the things that will be a little bit different with a Montepora frag is those you will have probably a white edge because Montes will not be able to be just a branch broken off unless it is actually a Montepora digitata. I'm not the best with Monte names, so I'm not sure on all the other branching Montes, but I do know that the encrusting Montes should have active growth over where the cut was, and again, or encrusted onto the actual frag plug itself. And as hobbyists, there's a lot of different steps you can take to ensure that you don't get in your main aquarium pests. Pests can deter you from wanting even to continue into the hobby. I've known people to actually get aquariums, enjoy it, love it, coral's growing, doing great. They put that coral in because they never had a problem that was from a legitimate source that is supposedly known not to have pests. Take that coral right from where they purchased it, put it directly into their aquarium. 3 weeks, months, 6 months later, all of a sudden, their corals aren't looking as good. That's because they took it from a source they thought was a perfect source to buy that coral from. No matter what, always dip your corals. This will keep you from being deterred from continuing into this awesome hobby that we are in. Corals are beautiful, they're very delicate, but they also can carry pests. A 10-gallon aquarium is a very, very good sized quarantine aquarium that you can use, and recommend you quarantine the animals for a minimum of a week. Probably should go for 2 weeks or better. Dip them multiple times in that 2-week period of times. Pests can have anywhere between a 1 to 2 week turnaround on eggs and larvae. This is the reason why you should quarantine your new corals before they go into your aquarium, because that's the last thing you want is, I think my coral is perfectly clean, I quarantined it for a week. Maybe you should have gone that second week. The longer, the better. Patience is something you have to have an absolutely gorgeous aquarium. When you lose the patience, that's when things can go wrong. So always stick to the same regimen that you go through according to what your local store tells you for dipping, for quarantine, but that is something you should always, always, always do. Here you go, this is Chris Meckley again with ACI Aquaculture. Just a recap on what we were talking about with purchasing frags. Always look for freshly glued frags. If the glue is opaque, it's probably only a couple of days, maybe a week old. If it's got a little algae growing on it, it's definitely going to be a little bit fragged a little bit longer, and if it still looks healthy, it is something that you could purchase. I always recommend you purchase frags that are healed 100% and you can tell are actively growing. Once you figure out the coral that you want to take home for your aquarium, do not put that coral in your aquarium until you've gone through a quarantine process. It sounds like it's a pain in the rear end, but honestly, if you don't do it, there is a possibility you're going to introduce something into your aquarium that will cause you problems and cost you a lot of money, as well as deter you from wanting to continue in the hobby. Again, like I've said in the past, we want people to stay in the hobby. And if anybody takes any advice from me, quarantine, dip, quarantine, dip, quarantine. I can't say it enough times. It's only going to benefit you and your aquarium and the longevity of it for the future.